Hi everyone and welcome to Asami Rat Care. So today is the final day of my 12 days of enrichment. We've made it. Hopefully you're not too fed up with me, but hopefully it's also been valuable and you've kind of got something out of it for your rats. I know my girls have quite enjoyed it. It's one of those things that when I start out I always think I'm absolutely mad trying to do something every day for 12 days over Christmas when I'm at my busiest. And if I was good, I'd plan it. I get it all filmed well in advance of the Christmas period and then just kind of like record it then. But I'm not, so basically I film it on the day, apart from Christmas Day. I did film that one on Christmas Eve. But yes, so today's video is going to be all about probably kind of my most favourite and most fun kind of natural behaviour that you can make sure that you're exploiting for the rats in the cages and outside of the cage, which is problem solving. So first of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things you can do in the cage, but I'm only going to really skim over those. And the reason why is if you watched last year's, which is all about enrichment feeding, 90% of those ideas were problem solving in the cage. And actually, a lot of the ideas that we've also seen so far for now has been problem solving. So it's anything where we're challenging our rats to think a little bit and to do things. So simple things like foraging is very much a kind of using that problem solving part of the brain, and it starts them on that journey. And then from the kind of foraging side you can tax them with more and more things, giving them choices, that kind of thing, even the novelty stuff we were talking about yesterday. But I'm going to talk about some of the things that I use regularly in my cage as kind of like a particular good example of that. So we've got a good old foraging mat. The reason I put this on here, technically it is just for foraging, but it's to show that not everything needs to be food centric. So what I'm going to do with this once the babies have finished playing with it, they like it too much at the moment, is I'm going to hang it on upside down in my cage and then let them pluck it for all the nesting material. And that in itself, I'll put it kind of upside down out of the way a bit. They'll have to figure out how to get that down, and it'll be a really good challenge for them. We also have multiple foraging toys. I'll go through some of my kind of favourites. So we have two different kind of wooden drawer ones here. These are quite commonly sold for small animals. And this top one's quite simple. You just pull it out. There's a little bit of space to put some food in, actually both sides, so you can mess around a little bit. And what you normally find if you use this, you get the blocks scattered all over the cage and they have a great time. This one's a similar example, but slightly more challenging. So as you pull that one out, the rat has to then move this along and pull it out, and so on. So they have to slide along to come out. That's quite nice. They do tend to figure that one out quite quickly. It's also got bigger holes, which is better for holding larger amounts of things. I quite often use this one on free range actually. It's normally out here, and also they use it as a good step. We've got foraging cup. Now, last year we looked at how you can make your own version of this. This was one that a friend made for me a while ago out of paper cups, so you can do quite a lot with that. Good old Christmas cracker. Haven't put this in with the girls yet, but I did get it on an auction, so I'm going to stick it in with them and see what they think. Very simple to make. Again, it's another thing that we learned about last time. Stuff it full of food or stuff it full of bedding. To be fair, the rats won't really mind, they just get excited about the destruction. Then we got this, which one of my friends made for me last year, and you can hide little bits of food in there. You can also put it in there for kind of a climbing point of view, make it slightly flexible, so they have to kind of mess around with it a little bit to get where they want to go, and it's a little bit unsteady, good for balancing. But that's a very good kind of thing too. You don't have to just do with that, you can use it with ropes, and that was one thing that we looked at in one of the videos last year, putting treats hidden in ropes to make it a bit more challenging for them to get around. We have various foraging toys. So this one's a variation on the cup one we saw before, but there's a lot of different cups and they can move them around and pull different sides. That one actually is quite easy for the rats, I find. They seem to just kind of like figure it out really quickly, whereas the bigger cup's a bit more challenging. We have my most challenging of foraging toys, where food goes in these areas. These are all parrot foraging toys we're on now. Generally parrot stuff is quite challenging for rats and also quite fun. But this one, we put food at the top here, and they have to spin this top bit, which cascades food through the levels, and then they have to spin the bottom bit, so they have to actually spin in two areas. Now this one's really good if I'm going away overnight or something and I want to try and slow them down eating. I put this in. Needless to say, it's emptied by the time I get home, but it takes them a lot longer than just digging and foraging for food. we have a hanging drawer system, so it works very similar to these, except it's kind of hanging up, so added like difficulty. And we've got good old foraging wheel, one of my favourites, where they have to spin round to be able to access each of the sections. And again, last Christmas we looked at a cheap and cheerful way of doing it out of a really inappropriately sized hamster wheel. And then we've got like a little kind of wobbly thing, which again you put food in. These are sold for cats quite often, and you can get them bigger and different design ones for rabbits and such as well, and they're also great. Oh, actually some for dogs too. So those are all kind of a collection of random problem solving toys that I tend to rotate in and out of the cage. I have them in a box and I'll pull one out for a few days, take it back and put another one in, that kind of thing. And it keeps them kind of challenged. Without it being too repetitive, and actually these get quite easy when they've been around them for too long, so by kind of introducing that novelty factor from yesterday, you can help keep them challenged for a longer period of time. Right, so problem solving on free range. Well, I'm going to take this one a little bit differently. It's, when I call it problem solving, it's about encouraging the rats to think, and for that we're going to look at rat agility. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause this, clear out all this area, and we're going to assemble a basic agility kit from just crap that I've got lying around the rat room and the house. I'll try and talk you through other options for these kind of things as well. It's basically all going to be about what we can do to get a feel for it, to see whether we enjoy it, and then if you want to, you can invest in some kind of proper agility equipment for rats. I'll also tell you a little bit about what rat agility is in case you're sitting there thinking she's mad, which I probably am. But we'll kind of get to that one later. So, see you in a second. Right, so I've tidied up the work surface and we're all ready to have a go at assembling our agility kit. So, what is agility for rats? It is basically, if you've not come across it, it's a smaller version of dog agility. It's a lot of fun. It involves kind of encouraging your rats to go over various obstacles against the kind of time limits, and different kind of places score it in different ways. I do a lot with North of England Rat Society, which is why we have all this stuff behind me. And it tends to look at kind of accuracy, so how well you complete the obstacles. It looks at kind of teamwork, how well the rat listens to you, and then it also looks at kind of speed as well, and those together churn out who's the best at the agility. And I'm quite lucky, I've got a girl in my team at the moment that has won agility many times, so we'll see what she does at home. She's very good at shows. I've never tried this at home before, it's something that we do quite regularly. Right, so what kind of obstacles are we thinking about? So if you think about dog agility, there are certain kind of types of obstacles that dogs tend to go over. So first things that are very common on all kind of agility courses are jumps. And for rats, what we tend to do in terms of jumps is we have something they can jump on top of and then over the other side. We don't have them doing clean jumps like show jumps or anything like that. That's purely because of how it suits the rats to jump. Rats don't tend to kind of hop up very easily, whereas they quite like to hop onto something and then off. So there are many different ways to do this. So first way that we're going to try, this is a basket. Very unexciting. You could do it with something like a show tank. You could do it basically with a kind of any kind of basket box type thing. The key thing is you want the rat to be able to stand on one end and it not tip up. If you're going to struggle with that, put a bit of weight inside it. So what we've got now, I can put it either way and the rat has to jump in and jump out. Very simple. It's also got a little bit of challenge in that rats quite often like to sit inside these things. So one of your things will be trying to persuade them to come out. And I will say, having both run agility and judged a lot of agility, rats are not quite up to the level of dogs. I'm sure we could train them up to that level, but generally people don't. In fact, I can't say I train my rats very often. We just play chase and that seems to cascade onto them doing fairly well at agility. But they will still be slower. They're not going to be quite as snappy as a really well-trained dog. Though I have seen some rats on kind of videos doing that kind of obstacle course very, very well. So it is possible. It's just up to you whether you want to train your rat to that extent. Right, so we've got a jump. Another very simple idea for a jump. We have a conveniently shaped biscuit tin. So this is where I keep lots and lots of kibble for the rats. It's a very simple jump in that they can jump onto it, jump back off again. Works absolutely great, really nice for them. Let's take it a bit further down the course. What I want to do is change up different kinds of obstacle they have to do at different times. Right, another classic one that you see on dog agility is an A-frame. Now I've got a random bit of mesh that came off something, I think Can't even remember what we got it for, but I use it for baby free range because they like to climb up and down it. Now this is really easy to make into an A-frame. All I have to do is bend it. I mean, it's not exactly the most A-shaped, but to be fair, the rats really won't mind if it's slightly cockeyed, and it kind of does a job on there, so they can climb up and climb over. It's a little bit mobile, and what I can do if I don't want the rats to kind of become scared or worried by something, is I can use a little bit of duct tape and stick it down. And actually, I should mention, another option for the jump, which basically anybody should be able to make. So I'm not going to put it on here because I've got enough jumps on here, but I'll show you. Very simple. What you can also do, box of cornflakes. We did food mixing recently, so I've got lots of boxes. And this was obviously going to wobble over if a rat jumps on it. But if I taped it either side to the work surface, it's only a temporary job, and that will be absolutely fine to use as a jump because it'd be quite stable. So a very simple way you can do something at home without too much effort and no real cost. Right, so we've got a jump, another jump, that jump out. Next, weaving posts. So weaving posts are very easy to do if you don't worry too much what they're like. So I've got a couple of pots. What else have I got? Oh, that's where it is. And I've got an empty bottle of water. And voila, I have weaving posts. Now what we have to make sure when we're doing weaving posts is we have to make sure the space around them for rats. Now I'm running low on space on my kind of self-imposed agility course now because I want to put plenty of things on for them. Like with the other thing, I'm going to tape them in place because the rats will otherwise just not come out of the way. It's only a kind of quick job, so duct tape's very useful for this, by the way. If you don't own duct tape as a rat owner, you're kind of like, it's like not owning the kind of wire that I use all the time. It's just essential. Again, we're not looking to kind of weld this to the surface. We're looking to stop the rats easily knocking it over. The reason I've separated these two with the bottle is because I just know the rats will just end up jumping from one to the other, which, to be fair, isn't an awful response to agility, but it's one of those that are kind of like try and get them to do something that's how I want them to do it to start off with, and then if they decide to have fun and do it their own way, that's actually fine and quite a lot of fun. With any kind of training with the rats, it's more about the two of you enjoying it and kind of creating a bond from it than actually doing it perfectly. So just kind of get out of it what you can. I'm actually going to slightly move this. Right, so I've got that. Right, final thing is to create a seesaw. Now with rats, it's a little bit more challenging because you could just get a piece of wood and stick a bit of dowling underneath it, which is a proper way of doing a seesaw. But trying to do one kind of quickly out of what you've got available is a little bit more challenging. So I found two options that I'll show you here. We'll see which one looks the best for doing this. So this is a hide that I quite often use for the rats. The legs kind of screw in, there's 4 of them. Now what I thought was I could just stick that to the base of it there, and then we've got a little seesaw. Need a little bit more tape for this. Again, a temporary job. It's only going to last for a short period of time, but it only needs to last for a short period of time. So you've got that there, and you've literally got a seesaw that works very simply. Along similar lines, it's not the most stable thing in the world. We also have one of my kind of many awards in frames that the babies were threatening to knock down recently. And a bit of hose that I found. Again, similar principle. You're looking for something round that attaches to something that's flat. And then it's just a case of taping it in place. I'll probably put a couple for this bit just because it's a little bit more wobbly. Of course we have one bit that's trying to curl. But again, works very similar principle, except it's a lot lower. I would start off with something fairly low for them, just because when it makes a large noise when it comes down, that can be quite scary for them. So I'm going to use my slightly chunkier one, just because my rats are a bit more used to it. We shall see what Tato makes of it. Other things you can use, so for an alternative for an A-frame is these are quite often sold for rats. In fact, many of us have them. Very simple to make it into an A-frame by just doing something like that. Again, it's probably not perfect. You could bend it slightly better than that, but that makes a good A-frame. It also makes a good tunnel to kind of add a bit of challenge. So I'm going to put, this is where I do run out of space. I'll put a tunnel there and then get to go over that jump. The seesaw, let's get, probably running out of space for my seesaw. Let's rearrange again. If you remember what I mentioned about the seesaw making a loud noise when it comes down, what I'm going to use is a couple bits of sponge so that it kind of like has a soft fall. That does actually take all the squish out of it, so let's just leave it on one side. Not good. We're going to have a slightly smaller seesaw now, and I will repair this later. Might go back to seesaw plan B if this doesn't work. That's working okay. To be honest, it takes up slightly less space, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. Right, I'm going to pick something different than this just because it's making a bit of a cloth. It'll do the principle basically, which means it won't make a big bang when it falls down. And that's something I've learned from the first ever time I did agility at a show, when my boys did an amazing job until he got to the seesaw, which was about quite near the end. I think it's the second to last obstacle. It made a loud bang, and he did the course perfectly in reverse, which sadly didn't count, and he didn't do a very good time. Right, so we've got our kind of makeshift agility course now. What I'm going to go and do is get Tato, who is my best at agility. We shall see how I do. I'm going to try and not get in your way too much when I'm talking you through what I'm doing, because actually one of the really kind of key things in agility, I think, is how you handle the rat. It's not just a case of putting it through and then driving it over the obstacles. It's kind of learning how to encourage without forcing them. So I'll show you how I typically handle it with Tato. I can't promise she'll be amazing, because rats are very different when they're at a show than when they're at home. When they're at home, they know exactly what they're doing. They don't feel that kind of need to do everything that you say, because they're in the home environment. They want to go and run off and play and do something else, or they just want to come and kind of like eat your ears or something like that because they're rats. So we shall see what she makes of it, but I'll at least be able to show you kind of how rats interact with the obstacles, and perhaps how I kind of handle them to do that. Right, here we've got Tato, who's my agility champion. In fact, not just an agility champion, she's a grand agility champion. The first one Nurse have had, which to be fair, they've only introduced grand championships in that format this year. But it basically means that she's won quite a few shows now. So we shall see how she gets on. She's normally quite good, but yes, like I said before, you just never know on this one. Right, so I'm going to start at the start. Good place to start, which will be where we've got this seesaw. Let's just move you out a little bit further because it's quite a long course. Right, so I'll pop it down. Hey Tato. So first thing is to try and get the rat's attention. Now that's quite difficult when they want to explore things. No, okay. So you can quite easily, if they're not quite doing what you want, gently lift them up, put them back on. Little taps on the sides. Go on, okay. Good girl. Come on, okay. So I'm using kind of my fingers to just kind of attract her attention to do something that I wanted to do. When she's entirely bypassing an obstacle, I'll pop her back at the start. Tato, come on, let's do it, it's in here. Like I say, it's a little bit different when you're on a course, when you're at home than when you're in a show. Good girl, clever girl. Come on, up here. There, go on, good girl. What's up here? What's up here? Nope, that's slightly the wrong way, but it's quite a good exploration. So back to the start again. Come on, Tato. Yeah, this feels a little bit weird. You've not been on this before. Good girl. Good girl. Well, that's one way around the weaving posts. Yep, we're off. So we missed an obstacle there. So let's try and attract her attention again. No, she really likes going underneath that tree. And one thing you will find, actually, I should say, is rats do quite enjoy hiding in agility courses. And you kind of learn to celebrate when they come out of an enclosed space. Right, this is a bit in the way, actually. well, that's one way round. Come on here. She's now wondering what on earth I'm asking her to do and doing the course in the way she wants to. This is kind of what I'm talking about. At home, she wants to explore her environment, and to show she wants to do what I ask her to because she's slightly shy and nervous. Right, let's try two-handed approach. Go on, good girl. Other side, good girl. Okay, up this side, good girl. And through the tunnel, and no, up here. Come on, Tato. She can tell there's kibble in this box. Come on, up here. And now she wants the food, not to do the treat. And I will say, you can use treats to help you do these. But I found that if you want to train them to do anything at a show, treats won't really make a difference because they're not interested in food at a show in the same way. They're interested in getting to you. So you do end up learning to do different things. Same with Feather One. Good girl. And we're down and complete. Well done. So that's her basically completing her course. I won't say it's her best run in the world, but like I say, it's kind of like half expected at home. One thing that's quite important is to give them a bit of fuss afterwards. But what's quite nice is the way they think a little bit about what you're asking them to do around obstacles, and how they kind of like enjoy the exploration, but also do actually enjoy doing what you ask them to do. Some of them. I will say agility is not for every rat. I had one rat that went over a jump that was kind of like a pole, spun round, it got terrified and ended up hiding under the jump for quite a while, so I just took her off the table and it was not really fair. She didn't go in again. But some rats love it, and it's quite nice to give them that experience. So it's like, pick your rat, don't be worried if they're kind of like not into it. But if they do enjoy it, encourage them, and what you can do is just practice certain obstacles again and again to see where they get up to. Hey, thanks. So you're more interested in seeing where the babies have been, aren't you? Let's go up here again. So, like I'm saying, when I'm kind of directing her, I'll try and like tap underneath to tell her to go up. Yes, I love you too. Tap her on the side to get her to go in one particular direction. And as you can see, she kind of like starts going in there before she gets more interested in doing other things, even when I'm not really doing things properly. I'll quite often use a stroke to kind of like encourage her to move on. And she's quite used to that one. Good girl. And then, yeah, change of direction. And if she needs resetting, I'll pick her up and put her back at the start of an obstacle. And that normally makes it, nope. Okay. You really don't like that, come on, you prefer the weaving post, don't you? Or you actually prefer this. Do you want to go over this? I don't come back to me. Yeah, let's try over it. And don't be afraid of trying different things with different obstacles. Good girl. Because again, it's making them think, and that's really the purpose of this one, making them think and having a bit of fun between the two of you. What you're looking at is the food down there. She's off now, she's quite happily exploring the course. And yeah, what I would also say, try and do it one rat at a time. It's very difficult when you've got a lot of rats in here to kind of like really have that same interaction. Are you marking? Are you marking the table, Mitty? I can see you. Tato's a bit of a funny one. She doesn't love kittens, so this is kitten free range, so it's particularly tempting for her at the moment. But yes, so give it a go. Agility is fun, enjoy it. You can get proper equipment, and at some point what I'd quite like to do is show you how to kind of make agility equipment yourself that's a bit more kind of like not bodged together like this, which I might do at a different point. I think I make something out of cardboard, but that's just an idea I've got that I'll probably not get around to for a while because it's quite intensive and I need to do a little bit of planning before that one. I'm quite bad at planning. So that's one to kind of like look out for, but do enjoy it and see which of your rats enjoys it too, and use it as a good excuse to teach them a bit of thinking, problem solving on the move, and give yourself a bit of a treat and bonding experience as well. So that's it from me and from Tato and from the rest of the girls in terms of 12 days of enrichment. I hope you've had a lovely Christmas and you had a great New Year, and look forward to seeing more of you, though I think I'll be limiting it to going back to kind of my roughly once a week-ish updates. So bye for now.